We're talking about how to get sellers to sign. And the first thing you have to understand is you can never, ever make, well, let's just call it someone, which is your seller. Well, that's a bad terminology. Let's just use it. You can never make a seller sign. Okay. You can't make them. You can't. So if you are looking like, how can I make my seller sign? You're simply thinking about the process wrong. Okay. At the end of the day, a seller is either going to do a deal with you because it works for them or they're not. You can never force them. You can never make them do a deal with you. It's impossible. I don't care how good of a salesman or woman you are. This right here, understanding this, if you understand that, you can't force matter on having people do it. So many people try to relate this business to like a car salesman. Like a car salesman truly never convinces somebody to buy a car. And the same thing's going to happen in real estate. You can't make a seller. And if you think you can make a seller sign an agreement with you and force them, I almost guarantee you're going to have a lot of fallout on your contract. So understanding the difference is the only thing you can do is basically walk them down a path that you are the best fit for them. So rule number one is you cannot force a deal. You cannot make them sign. So how do I avoid talking to people that don't even want to do a deal with me? So rule number one, motivation first. Because if you go through the qualifications MCTP and you realize they're not even slightly motivated and they only want to sell based on price, a wholesaler, a real good wholesaler, skips the process. Because you can spend 5 hours with them, you're never going to convince them to sell your property at a discounted rate. So if you guys understand that up front, you know you can save a lot of your effort. So many of you sit there and try to beat up people that really have no interest and no motivation selling you the property. Just move on or put them in your follow-up. You can spend 4 or 5 hours. You're never going to make them sell it to you. I've tried it, guys. It's like pushing a boulder uphill. You are going to get crushed by the boulder and it's a waste of time. So understanding that motivation is an absolute must, you have to understand that. So once we know that, then we have to, how do I set up a deal? So once you go through your MCTP and qualifying, either you're doing this virtual or you're going in person, the next thing you have to do is set up the upfront agreement. So if you guys have never heard of the upfront agreement, it's real simple. An upfront agreement is simply this. Before I sit down, especially before I get to the negotiation part, and I usually do this after I initially walked the house, if I'm at a property or if I'm on the phone doing it virtually, is I'm going to tell the seller, I said, listen, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to get to know you. I'm going to get to know a little bit more about your property. And at the end of our discussion, you'll have a decision to make. And it's either going to be, yes, I want to work with you, Rick. I love you. You're fun, you're exciting, and you're a little all over the board. And I like fun people. Or I don't like your offer and you are not a good fit for me. And it's a no. But either way, we're going to come to the end of the road and it's going to be a yes or no. I have to make sure we have a commitment that you will make a decision to move forward with me. That's a yes, or you decide to move no. Can I get that commitment from you? Simply said, just like that. Now I have a verbal agreement. I have a head nod. And if they don't answer, you wait. And if they literally don't answer, you go back and reaffirm. And even when they nod their head yes, is that a yes, Mr. Seller? Yes. The reason you do that is it walks them through their process. Understanding when people sell their property, guys, other than the loss of a loved one, it's probably the single most biggest decision they make in their life. And if you understand that, you can understand why sellers has reservations. And most of the people we're dealing with are challenging properties or challenging personal situations. You put a combo of those both, a lot of sellers get overwhelmed. Your job is to walk them through a process and reaffirm that they're making the right decision. The whole goal of any negotiation you do with a seller is to have them progress along. And you can't be random all over the place. You can't talk for hours on end, and you can't close the deal in like 5 minutes. So understanding that the upfront agreement probably is one of the single biggest factors if you're going to get a yes, okay? And it's the ability to get a yes or a no. Because at the end, what if they go like this? I don't know, Rick, I really have to think about this. Okay, Mr. Seller, is there anything in particular that has thrown you off in our discussion in the sale of your property? Well, I want to talk about this. Okay, I'm going to go over those for you, but remember, we had an agreement for you to make a decision of yes or no. Oh, yeah, that's right. So by using the upfront agreement, you actually build in an insurance policy. It doesn't work every time, but probably 80% of the time, it really comes in handy because people don't want to lie to you and they know they committed from you right in front of you and they don't want to go against their word. So I use this as a lever. Remember, I'm not forcing them to make a decision. I just want them to make a decision. So odds are, if I've qualified them, I've set up an appointment, meet with them in person or virtually, odds are there's a good chance they're going to sell it to me. I just got to let them reaffirm they're doing business with the person that I say I am, and I can follow through with what I'm saying. So the upfront agreement is huge. So once you do the upfront agreement, you will never get a great decision without any type of rapport. I'm not going to go into depth with you guys. You know how I feel about this. How do you get rapport? It's real simple. You have conversations. Now you can start with a script. Eventually, you have to turn scripts into conversations. Conversations are what normal people do. If I sit there and go, how many bedrooms is your house? 3. Okay. How many garage spaces are in the garage? 2. Okay. The garage is right there. Why don't you just look at it? As opposed to me walking around and go, oh my God, there's so many bedrooms in this place. This garage, was this fit like 4 cars? That's huge. Having a conversation, invoke emotion and get them to respond. If you ask a seller yes and no questions, it is not a conversation. That is a script. I'm telling you, by just trying to find a way to have conversations, it will change the game in your relationship. Remember, people want to do business with people they like, they know, or they're friends with. So your job is to get them to like you. And why not? It's no problem coming. There's no issues coming friends with a seller, but the business has to come first. So we always treat people are our priority. And I love how people say, oh, you got to do profit first. No, profit doesn't come until you actually provide value to people. So many people want to get a yes at a decision. But if you do not build rapport by having great conversations, I almost guarantee you're going to get a no. Ask me how I know this. It's so important. Okay. So the next part of the structure is be you. Okay. Stop trying to be. If you guys hired a coach and he always wears a hat and a jacket and you feel like you have to be, stop it. Sellers don't like that stuff. They rather have regular people. I could care less if you wear a hat or a jacket. If that's who you are and that's your authentic self, be it. I need you to be you. You don't need to be Rick. You don't need to be Zach. The people need people just like you. The reality is God only made one of you, and there's a reason for it. You're unique. You're different. And I would use your God-given talent no matter what it is. So if you're super funny, make people laugh, that is like medicine to people's soul, and it helps out a lot. If you're really good at bringing up facts and like history that relates to the conversation, go for it. If you're a super bubbly person and people just enjoy connecting with you, make it work. But understand you've got to use your superpowers for the good of the transaction. Some of you are very analytical with facts and you can provide stuff with it, but eventually you have to turn it into conversation. So stop trying to be a robot because somebody taught you to do it this way. Honestly, the minute I let go and started being myself, it was so freeing because I don't have to fake it. And if you're faking it, you're doing the business wrong. Just be yourself with people. People relate to humans. There is a reason why I sell myself as Rick Ginn whenever I do a deal, because I own up to Rick Ginn. I am Rick Ginn. The minute I start doing my corporate spiel, it's a whole different conversation. And I'm telling you, people want to do business with personal people. I've worked for multi-billion-dollar corporations, and I remember they said before, they said, if this guy leaves Rick, we're gone. He's the only reason we do business with your company. And that's how you have to look at your wholesaling business. So you have to be you. By being you, it makes you what? It makes you authentic. When you're authentic, you're your true self. You send out vibes to the world that you want to help people out, and people pick up on it. I can sense the minute somebody's fake with me. It's just so easy. And for some reason in wholesaling, it is more of the norm to be fake than to be yourself. Guys, stop it. People love families. They love that you have kids. They love that you have dogs. They love that you have cats. So stop hiding it and accent it, because people, there's, by the way, 55% of people own dogs in the United States. So embrace the dog. I will tell you what, like if you ever come to my house and my dog doesn't like you or like you avoid it, I kind of wonder, like, what are you doing? So I'm a dog person. I love dogs. I think I love all animals, but there's something about dog people, like they connect, and you can tell when someone doesn't like a dog. So if you guys have a fear of dogs, you got to get over it quickly, because I've seen people not do deals because they never connected with their dog, as crazy as that sounds. Oh my God. It's so funny. So let's move on. When you're sitting down and talking to people, things you can do to avoid like freaking out your seller. So number one, trigger words to avoid. If you guys want to use the comment section and write it on, yes, we're having one-on-ones. If you just go over to Wholesaling for Houses for Real, you click on our live stream for today. There's a link to join the one-on-one. You have to be registered, and you have to be a member of our YouTube group. So if not, go ahead and do all that, and I'll try to squeeze you in. So we're talking about trigger words. If guys, put in the comments what you think is a trigger word that freaks sellers out. I know them all by heart, and I'm going to share them with you, and then I'll let you guys fill in the blanks, and maybe we can find some additional trigger words that I got sound on my side. So just let me know if anybody said someone doesn't have sound. Make sure you guys can hear me. Testing. Yeah, I'm working. Sound works. So Rob has on their contract. So I agree. Contract. Let's do all the words that trigger people. And a trigger word is simply a word that is so wired in your subconscious that it freaks you out a little bit. So when anyone hears the word contract, they just perk up. So what other trigger words do we have here? A contract's a good one. Signature. That's a good one. Inspection. I got more, guys. I can go all day on these. Wholesaler. Phenomenal. Nicole. Guys, we use the word wholesaler to express what we do for a living. The reality is 95% of the world outside of us, they're scared to death of wholesalers because they don't understand what we do. So if you understand that, then it's not a pride thing with wholesaler. Just don't confuse people and don't give them a reason to dislike you because they heard something from a realtor about it. Somebody else said investor. That's a good one too. Guys, keep them coming, because this is how we kind of learn. And then I always learn. The word attorney freaks me out. I can tell you that. Attorney's a good one. What else you guys got? I love this stuff, because if you understand these words, so think of this. A trigger word is anything. If you think about, if you've ever got like pulled over by a police officer, which God knows I have, even when the red and blue lights at night, when someone's coming behind you, you get that like, oh my God, am I speeding? Did I do something wrong? Trigger words do the same thing. When you hear them, they're like, some people when you hear anything finances wise, they absolutely freak out. Let me give you a couple words that I came up with. Paperwork is better than contract, but it still has kind of a negative connotation. And then I will tell you this, the word price and the word offer. I'm just not a big fan on our side because it creates I figured papers is like paperwork's David on it. So, okay, we have a good list of trigger words here. So let's talk about what can we use words to replace them. So if we're talking about the first one on contract, I think somebody already posted it. I like agreement, because you have the word agree in it. Remember, we're never going to force someone to do business with us. So if we use the word agreement, and you have to burn it in your DNA. So you have to catch yourself whenever you use the word the contract, you're going to switch it with agreement. It works really, really well, and you need to understand that. Signature. I'll let you guys kind of, and you guys, any of these words, go ahead. We'll start putting it in there and we'll just simply find replacement words. Once you're aware of the words you say that have power, it is going to help out with your cash buyers. I'm sorry, your sellers are making decisions, cash buyers as well. So if we go on signature, just by using the word, I like approved. Autograph is a great one. Who doesn't want their autograph? Here's a simple one I use. You ready for this? Okay. I just need your okay on these documents. And document's not a bad word, but it's still a little bit of a red flag word. Okay, autograph. I do like approve. So what about inspection, guys? Because inspection's kind of a wild one. And by the way, you can replace a lot of these words. Sometimes an inspection, just do a simple look, and then you can just get an okay on this one, or just approve. I do the same thing. Now, when it comes to wholesaler investor, this is the simplest one, and this is where a lot of you guys use the wrong words. I wouldn't use John Hancock. I don't want any like ambiguities there. So due diligence is good, but it sounds a little bit scary. A walkthrough is perfect. So let me see who did the walkthrough. Of course, Amory did. So I appreciate it. Walkthrough is awesome. So the key with trigger words is use normal words people use and don't try to talk to above them, and think about it at like a 6th grade level. Because if you try to sound smart and overtalk your sellers, I guarantee you're going to wind up getting a no. So let's move on. Attorney. I got some choice words I'd like to put in here, but I'm not going to. I'll have my team take a look at it. I don't use the word attorney because it freaks people out. I don't like the word attorney because all I hear are dollar signs and delays. So I'm going to use the word team. So if I had my attorney look at it, I'm going to have my team look at it. I don't know what I did here. Oh. Anyways, some technical difficulties. I'll figure this out. What did I do with that? Never mind. So the other one I had on there was we did attorneys. I just used team. And guys, the whole idea is you got to avoid these trigger words. By avoiding the trigger words, it makes your life so much simpler. So I'm going to wrap it up because I want to get to talking to you guys. There's 2 techniques when you're talking to a seller to work them through this. Hold on. I'm going to try to pull this up again. See, this technology stuff's crazy. Okay, let me pull it back up. And let me get. So when we talk about techniques when we're working with a seller, there's 2 techniques I use that really help out your process in getting a yes from them. Number 1, good, bad cop. So if you guys know how that works, a good, bad cop is, remember, you're the good person meeting with them either on the phone or in person. And the bad cop is usually, Zach always makes it out to be me. Listen, my dad says I can't pay more than $100,000 for this house. And usually the seller goes, oh man, are you crazy? I can't do those numbers. And so here's the good cop, bad cop routine. I go, listen, my dad says that. That's why I come out to meet with you. I want to make this deal work. I told my dad he was crazy. What number allows you to walk away from this property? So simply by doing that good cop, bad cop, because people always like a villain. They like to blame somebody. So you, the wholesaler, don't want to be the villain. And by the way, on the last thing I said on the replacement words for trigger words, wholesaler investor, just replace it with cash buyer. It's very, very, very simple. Don't overrepresent yourself. Don't underrepresent yourself. You want to use the word cash buyer. So hopefully that helps you out with it. Cash buyer. It's simple. It's worked forever. And these are one of the things I'm never going to change on. So good cop, bad cop, guys. I'm telling you, it takes pressure off your negotiations and it makes you look like the hero. And yes, you can be the good cop and the bad cop. You're just presenting it to your seller differently because it's just easier. Some of you are going to have an easier time, especially when you give that low ball offer. And you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. We have to go for no on these deals. The next one is the volley method. And then this is when you get to the negotiation with your seller. You had an upfront agreement and they go, Mr. Rick, I don't know. I don't know what that number needs to be. And I'm simply going to go back to them. And by the way, I never use the word price or offer. I use the word amount. It works really well because it's not threatening. The word offer and ask price indicates retail, and the word price kind of indicates retail too. So if you use the word amount, it's very simple. My price is, no, the amount is, and you can go from there. So the volley method is basically when you ask them for a number and they won't give you an answer. And so remember, if I go for a no, I go, Mr. Seller, would you take 50,000 for this? Would you take 50,000? And I just shut up and they're like, Rick, I don't know. I can't do that number. And they don't give you a counter. The most frustrating part. I go, okay, Mr. Seller, tell me if you did have an amount and you knew what that amount was to make you happy, to get you and your wife on your way, what would that amount be? And how soon would you like to do it? Shut up. Every time you keep serving, they have to come back with a response. Did you know studies show when you volley twice, most people cave and break down? Not everybody, but most do. I've learned this over time. If you keep the volley going, so think about like a tennis match. By the way, I'm terrible at tennis. I'm horrible at it. Think about volleyball. But when you serve it, they have to serve it back to you. And what this allows you to do is have an interaction to get your seller to make a decision. Remember, you're not going to force a decision, but you have to go through the process to get it through to them. Okay. By using these two methods, it will allow you to induce a decision from your seller. It's really important because when they sit there and just don't do anything, you have to use techniques to keep the negotiations going. I find these are two simple, basic level ones, and it's very helpful. Now, what I want you to do is practice the volley method. You have to practice it because if you do it on the fly, it's going to be disastrous. If anybody wants to role play it, I would love to do it with you. The volley method is simply almost repeating the question and asking it back to them. By the way, don't use this on your wife because she figures it out in a week or two and she'll use it against you. Trust me on this. So will your kids. Kids are really smart on this, but your sellers, remember, my job is to walk them through a final decision, and that's what I have to do when I do this. So good cop, bad cop's pretty self-explanatory, but please practice it because it makes a huge, huge difference. So now that we understand that you can't force people to do this, that we have to do this, and we have to walk them through a system. The biggest, are you ready for this? What do you think is the biggest factor why people do a deal with you? Say you hit all the points correct. What is the single word that you can attribute why a cash buyer does business with you opposed to any of your competition or maybe even a realtor? Other than motivation, what do you think? What do you think is the best way? And I'm going to wait for the answer because one of you guys have it. This is a culmination. If you walk the seller down the path, they qualify. I agree they like you, but there is one word. There is one word. Trust is perfect. Trust is part of it. They like you is definitely part of it. What does all that culminate to? What does all that culminate to you? They have what in you? They have to have this factor. And if you don't have rapports, relationships, rapport is part of it. It's all a culmination of this word. I'm not going to do the hangman thing. Faith is not bad. We've already talked about trust. So you guys are so close to it. When you demonstrate this, me and Zach talk about it all the time. You have to go through the journey for a seller and you have to demonstrate this for a seller. And dude, Ryan got it right too, but Get Busy Global's got it right. It's a culmination of confidence. If you get their trust, their faith, you build relationships, you build rapport. It's unbelievable, guys. Everything is a culmination. So the final part of this is confidence. And the biggest question you have is, Rick, if I've never done a deal before, how am I supposed to get confidence? Well, confidence is demonstrated by all the things I just taught you, using the volley method, setting up the upfront agreement, walking them through a decision process, and just spending time with your sellers. Because in the end, if they don't like you, even if you're offering a higher price in your competition, they don't do business with you. So credibility is a big part of it. Belief's a big part of it. Care is definitely it. All that culminates to confidence. Think about this, guys. If you're going to buy a car, a boat, an RV, or like a house or a big ticket item, you want to make sure the person that is helping you is confident. And the minute they're not confident, there's not a lot they can do. You're just moving on to the next person. So you have to fill the confidence box. Confidence is a culmination of everything. Trust, rapport, faith. I like that one. Belief, and likeness. So guys, it's important. I'm going to wrap this up on this part and we're going to go to lives. Is people do business because they believe in you. So if they're not motivated and you're trying to force to get a decision, you're literally wasting your time. So make sure you go through motivation first. You do it by qualifying MCTP, and then you go through and you develop rapport with them. You develop a relationship with them. You avoid the trigger words, use the complimenting words. And when you get down to it, if you have to use a technique, good cop, bad cop, volley, whatever it is. And the really cool part is understanding this is all a process. And the sales process is simple. You walk through this. As you do it more and more, you'll get better and better at it. And then we're going to teach you what we call a trial close. So everybody knows what a trial close is. A trial close is when you test them to close. And if there's something they don't like, then you go in and fix that part that they don't like. Maybe it's the price, the terms, or something like that. You recertify what they like about doing with you. You fix the problem with it. Then you do a trial close again and you walk through it. And if they're confident in you and they like everything you hear, that's why they do a deal. And once they give you your vote of confidence, it's up to you to keep. And by the way, you can lose confidence quickly by not returning calls, not following up, and definitely by not closing. So I hope this, let me pull this off of here. So many people think that you have to force a seller into do it. It's not. It's never been a force. Actually, slick salesmen and wholesaling, it doesn't work. The person that can explain and build relationships will dominate a slick salesman any day. I'm not a slick salesman. I'm authentic and I know how to connect with people. And if you like doing that and that resonates with you, you will do extremely well in wholesaling.